Part 40. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 393. 391. When Bai Qianjiao was talking to Grandma Chi San, she would look over at He Tian from time to time. When she saw that He Tian was lacking something, she would always remind the maid around her to send some. Grandma Chi San felt relieved secretly. This is really hurting the sweet girl. Sister Chi, will you always settle here? Bai Qianjiao asked. If that's the case, maybe Tian will stay a little longer. Or maybe he stayed in country M under Sister Chi's persuasion. Grandma Chi San shook her head and said, No, I will go back in more than a month. I have lived in the village all my life and am used to it. I want to return to my roots. Ah, Bai Qianjiao was surprised. Then will your son go back too? He will send me back to his hometown to worship his ancestors. After all, he was not around when his father passed away. However, he will still bring his family back. China is not suitable for him, Grandma Chi San replied. As for me, I feel satisfied knowing that my son is alive and well. Bai Qianjiao nodded and said, It's rare that Sister Chi can give up. So what if you don't give up? You will get something if you give up. Nothing in this world is perfect, and you are lucky to be perfect. Grandma Chi San smiled. By the way, I heard Tian say that you also want to go to China one trip. Grandma Chi San nodded and said, Yes, I want to see my son. Well, it's time to go back. It just so happens that Shuliang returns to his hometown to pay homage to his ancestors. Just say that you are my cousin and come with us. How do you and Jingyu know each other in private? Behind closed doors, no one else knows. You say, is this okay? Bai Qianjiao nodded repeatedly and said, That's great. My status is probably not suitable for me to stay in the country and meet Jingyu. This old bone of mine has a few more years to live. I want to pass on the Bai family's legacy to Sweet. Haha. It's good that my sister can think like this, Grandma Chi San said. Jingyu's wife, Tian are all kind-hearted people, and you, sister, are also a good person. Good people will be rewarded. When the domestic environment is better, you can communicate more often. I hope so, Bai Qianjiao said, not thinking about anything else. She just wanted to see her son now. But before that, she had to take care of her family's property. Don't be afraid of thieves stealing, just be afraid of thieves missing you. His son's family is in China, and Xin Wei and Xin Anan can't reach over there, so Bai Qianjiao is not worried about their safety. The chefs in the Bai family are top-notch in both Western and Chinese cuisine. For today's banquet, we prepared both Chinese and Western dishes. After a sumptuous lunch and a tour of the Bai family's art collection, the group was satisfied. Seeing that He Tian was about to follow Grandma Chi San, Xianglan was very anxious. The arrogant lady could not open her mouth to persuade the young lady to stay, so she stepped forward and said softly, Little lady, when you are free, you can always come over to accompany the young lady. He Tian was startled, and when she saw her grandmother's earnest eyes, she nodded and said, Thank you, Grandma, Grandma Lan. I will come over often to play. Just don't bother me then. The pain doesn't come in time, why bother? Xianglan said with a smile. She responded, well, and there will be many opportunities in the future. After seeing off Grandma Chi San and her group, Bai Qianjiao was smiling and feeling happy. Miss, I haven't seen you smile so happily for a long time, Xianglan said. It's different now that we have children. Our place will become more and more lively in the future. Yes, we will go to the company later. I have to make some arrangements. We will return to China next month, Bai Qianjiao said. Meet Jingyu. Oh, then I have to pack it up and see what would be better to bring, Xianglan said excitedly. When we left, she was only 1 or 2 years old, and now my daughter is this old. Time flies so fast. 35 years have passed like this. Yes, time flies like an arrow, and the sun and the moon fly by, Kyanjio said with emotion. It seems that my will needs to be changed. Of course, Xionglan said, give it all to the young master, miss, never give it to those white-eyed wolves. Actually, I have already decided that if they are brothers and sisters, I want to give them the property of the Xian family. Kyanjio said, I haven't been able to leave a son and a half to the Xian family, and I don't want those. It's not like I don't have property. Hey, it is indeed a bit inappropriate to leave the Xian family's property to the He family, Xionglan said, but miss, you have worked so hard to take care of the property left by my uncle for so many years. Isn't it cheap, to brother and sister? I only want to return the property. I won't give back the income from the past 10 years. Kyanjio said that she never does loss-making business. But even so, the property left by Jianyi has been tripled. It's a profit for the brothers and sisters. Xionglan nodded, agreeing with the young lady's statement. When the old man of the Bai family was still alive, he said that the young lady was a genius in business, and it was true. There are people in the world who are content and happy, but there are even more people who are greedy and want to swallow the elephant. Xian Wei had already sent someone to inquire about his stepmother, and soon found out about the Qi family and Qi San's grandma, He Tian. Xian Wei held two photos in his hand, one of young He Tian and the other of graceful Bai Kyanjio. There is already an empty wine bottle on the desk, and I am drinking from the second bottle now. Li Yushin was worried and knocked on the door to come in. Away, stop drinking. If you have any questions, tell me and maybe I can help you, Li Yushin said softly. Her husband had been drinking too much, which was too harmful to his health. Xian Wei was conflicted because he hadn't told his sister about this yet. When Li Yushin saw that her husband was silent, she looked at the photos on the table and asked, this girl looks like her stepmother. They called Bai Kyanjio mother in person, stepmother behind their back, and yet why when mother or mommy? This is stepmother's granddaughter, Xian Wei said. He has been uneasy since his stepmother changed her will, and now his premonition has finally come true. Ah, Li Yushin was stunned, didn't my stepmother never give birth to a child in her life? Xian Wei shook his head and said, I have always thought so, but after this investigation, it turns out that my stepmother was married before marrying my father, and she also has a son in China. Then how did this girl appear in country M? Li Yushin was puzzled and waited for her husband's explanation. Xian Wei did not hide anything and told Li Yushin everything he found out. After a while, Li Yushin regained her composure and said, Away, you drink so much, are you worried that your stepmother's property will be given to her biological son? Yeah, Xian Wei nodded, that's a lot of money. Not only the Xian family's money, but also the Bai family's money. Li Yushin nodded, but quickly calmed down. Although the Li family was not as powerful as the Xian family and the Bai family, they also had their own way of running a business. Above 2031. Good gay friend Xianke, the White Lotus strategy, the princess is reborn, and she plots all the way to the top of her life. Xianke, author of Living Color and Medical Fragrance, the so-called gangster knows martial arts and no one can stop him. What if this gangster is still shameless? The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 394. 392. As the eldest daughter of the Li family, Li Yushin also received a good education. Although she does not manage business matters now, she still knows a little. The Bai family's wealth is very mysterious and has been speculated by the outside world, but few people can roughly estimate it. Away, I think with my stepmother's temperament, even if she recognizes her biological son or granddaughter, she will not use the Xian family's property as a favor. At most, her biological son will inherit the Bai family's property. That is her blood. There's nothing wrong with that, Li Yushin said with a calm expression. As a daughter-in-law, She maintains a good relationship with her stepmother-in-law, so she sees things more clearly. She couldn't control what happened to her sister-in-law, but she didn't want her husband to confront her stepmother because of money. My stepmother has half of the Xin family's property, and I think she will divide it between Anan and me. Xin Wei said. It's just a pity that so much of the Bai family's property is lost. Xin Wei always thought that he would inherit most of his stepmother's property, but after so many things happened, he was not as sure as before, but he still felt regretful in his heart. Away, you can't be greedy, Li Yushin reminded, not wanting her husband to be blinded by money. Actually, my stepmother is very good to us. If my mother-in-law hadn't done something stupid last time, not long after my father-in-law passed away, my stepmother would have treated Xin. The family's property is divided among us. Thinking of his biological mother, Xin Wei had a headache. He failed to accomplish anything but failed more than he did. Yes, it's all because mom is too impatient. Xin Wei smiled bitterly. Actually, if we think about it from her perspective, if we were in stepmother's position, we might not be able to do this. Li Yushin nodded and said, yes, in 10 years, the Xin family's property has doubled in the hands of stepmother. Stepmother is a good hand in business. At that time, I said that we cannot blindly obey my mother-in-law, and we must also respect our stepmother. After all, it was your stepmother who raised you and Anan. It's so chilling for us to do that. Xin Wei looked embarrassed and nodded, yes, we have gone too far. But you also know that if we don't go to mom, we will cry, make trouble, and hang ourselves. It's annoying. Since you can't be filial to your stepmother like a parent and son, don't covet other people's money, Li Yushin said coldly. I don't care what my sister-in-law does. Anyway, I don't want you to take risks. Has your father-in-law told you about the Bai family? I don't know, but I once heard my father say, don't mess with the Bai family, Chi family. When my father was alive, he was very respectful every time he mentioned the Bai family. Xin Wei said, let me honor my stepmother, but alas, I didn't do it. Yeah, we haven't honored our stepmother, and we still want other people's property. Isn't it too much? They have biological sons with the blood of the Bai family, but we don't. We haven't done either, so we can't do some things reluctantly. Li Yushin continued, if we go too far, I don't know if my stepmother will take action against us, but I know that you can't get even a cent of the Xin family's property, which is what my father left. Give it to your stepmother, she has the right to handle it. With her pride, she will not give the Xin family's property to her son, but she will not give it to us, and she will really donate it. How could Xin Wei not think of this possibility? Hey, it's all greed, Xin Wei said. Okay, let's run our company well and don't think about it too much. You are right to think so, Li Yushin said. By the way, what do you say to my sister-in-law? Xin Wei thought about the situation in his sister's company, looked embarrassed and said, hey, something happened at Anan company, it might be urgent. Did I ask you to borrow money again? Li Yushin asked, feeling contemptuous in her heart. If she didn't run the company properly, she would just think about having sex with a man and a woman, messing around outside, and borrowing money at every turn. Yes, I don't borrow much. Xin Wei smiled bitterly, it won't work if I don't borrow it. But she has borrowed money so many times, has she ever paid it back to you? Li Yushin asked angrily. Now her company depends on borrowing our money to survive. If it doesn't run it well, we are her bank. Don't, it's repayable without interest and it's very convenient. Xin Wei was embarrassed by his wife, saying that his sister had indeed gone too far, but as an older brother, he could not just watch his sister's company collapse. It's just this time, Xin Wei said with an embarrassed look, it won't happen again. I say that every time, Li Yushin said angrily, if you continue like this, the Xin family's property will also fall into your hands. Most of the profits in these years have been spent at home, except for our own expenses. When it comes to my sister-in-law, the company's size, updates, and new investments have not changed at all, and if this continues, we will only go bankrupt. His wife was right, Xin Wei had nothing to say to refute. Just like what my wife said, the company's development is currently restricted because there is not enough capital investment and it has been resting on its laurels. Hey, I will increase my investment in the future, Xin Wei said. I will talk to Anan about her. I hope so, Li Yushin said. My sister-in-law has always been eyeing the property in her stepmother's hands. If she knew that her stepmother had a biological son, would she do something bad? No way, Xin Wei hesitated. In his heart, even though his sister was lazy, she was still the cute sister she was when she was a child. Li Yushin sneered twice and said, I suggest that even if you want to talk to your sister-in-law, you should warn her not to act randomly. Sometimes, you are the brother who loves your sister, and I, an outsider, can see it more clearly. My sister-in-law is the same as my mother-in-law. Personality, whether it's style of conduct, or vision. After hearing this, Xin Wei looked embarrassed and wanted to refute, but he didn't know how to refute. The more Li Yushin thought about it, the angrier she became. Her husband's indecisive temperament, although he would not do anything excessive, was soft-tempered and really irritating. He had been morally kidnapped by his mother and sister. She can persuade her husband for the time being, but her sister-in-law will definitely do something stupid. The husband will get involved again in order to save his sister-in-law, and the family will not be peaceful again. Xin Wei didn't tell Xinan these things for a long time. On the contrary, Xinan had no money in his hand. When he asked his brother for money, he asked a few questions by the way. Brother, please give me another $1 million, Xinan said. You know, I am really short of money now. Anan, I only gave you 1 million last month, why was it gone so quickly? Xin Wei asked unhappily. His wife was right, she couldn't satisfy her sister's unreasonable demands again and again. It's only 1 million, which is not enough for me to spend. The company is about to purchase goods, and there is no money in the account, Xinan said nonchalantly. Anyway, her elder brother will help her. 2057 words. 2 bean paste buns completed the novel Heu Farming. Lu Heu believes that farming can also lead to a bright future. Bao Mei is not to be trifled with, the smart little Bao Mei is not to be trifled with, little bamboo horse, please be obedient. Rebirth of soul wisdom, I'm sorry, Mom, I love you. After rebirth, after Bai Ling was reborn, he swore to God that he would never let you be harmed again. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 395. 393. As for the eldest sister-in-law, she is a person of a different surname, who cares about her? Xinan has always thought so. Anan, you can't do this anymore, Xin Wei said, you only know how to eat, drink and have fun all day long. You and your wife don't care about the company. It's strange that you can continue to operate like this. If you continue like this, your company will go bankrupt sooner or later. Brother, why have you become so nagging? Xinan said, you didn't say so much when I asked you to borrow money before. Hearing his sister say this, Xin Wei was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. Borrow money, Xin Wei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Have you ever paid back a penny of the money you borrowed from me? In the past few years, you have taken nearly 30 million from me, and most of my company's profits have been taken away by you. Brother, we are siblings, you can't just watch my company go bankrupt, Xinan said angrily. Her brother is not good to her now. He asked for a little money, but he was so reluctant. Anyway, I won't give you money, Xin Wei said, go back and run the company well. The money you earn will be enough for you to eat and drink. Brother, Xin Anan said angrily, is it my sister-in-law who is whispering behind my back? Now she wants to occupy our family's property. Shut up, Xin Wei saw that his sister was too much. Although his wife reminded him, it was not easy for his wife to endure until now all these years. He couldn't let his wife down again. Xin Anan stood up, looked down at Xin Wei who was sitting, and said angrily, I know it's her. This is our Xin family's money. What does it have to do with her, an outsider? I don't care. Anyway, I want 1 million. If I don't get it tomorrow, don't blame me for being rude. Stop, Xin Wei was furious at his sister. Your sister-in-law has been married to the Xin family for so many years, and your nephew is already 18 years old. She is a member of the Xin family, not an outsider. If you say this again next time, don't blame me for not recognizing you as your sister. Xin Wei knew his wife's hard work. If it weren't for his wife, the relationship between them and their stepmother would be even worse. The words of his younger sister were too hurtful, so Xin Wei did not allow her to say so. Oh, I haven't said a few words yet, and you are already defending me. If Mom knew, I don't know how sad she would be, Xin Anan said with a fake smile. The elder brother was soft-tempered, and softness would not work. If he was hard, he would definitely give in. Don't talk nonsense, Xin Wei said angrily, so the younger sister didn't know what was good for her. Seeing that her elder brother was so angry that his face turned red and his neck was thick, Xin Anan was worried that his elder brother would get sick, and then she would have no money in the future. As for the money in the stepmother's hands, it was not known when she could get it. By the way, what's the situation with the stepmother? Xin Anan changed the subject. See if you can bribe the family doctor and find out the physical condition of the stepmother, so that we can prepare earlier. If the stepmother didn't live long, they could go to be filial earlier. Seeing his sister like this, Xin Wei decided not to tell his sister if he knew the truth, or if he knew it, he would be more unreasonable, as his wife said. It's the same as before, nothing happened, Xin Wei said. If you want to think about these things, why don't you manage the company well? Too tired, Xin Anan said. Anyway, my stepmother has a lot of money, it will be mine sooner or later, and I can't spend it all in my lifetime. Why should I work so hard? I'm leaving, big brother, 1 million tomorrow at the latest. After that, Xin Anan turned around and left. Xin Wei sat dejectedly on the chair. How did his sister become like this? It seems that his wife is right. He can't indulge his sister anymore and can't watch his sister become a waste. Xin Wei didn't give Xin Anan money. When Xin Anan was shopping outside, she found that there was no money in the card. She was so angry that she jumped up and down, her face flushed, and she lost face in front of her bestie. Xin Anan went directly to Xin Wei's company and made a big fuss. Xin Wei was very disappointed and didn't give Xin Anan money. Xin Anan couldn't get the money, and she was depressed. She went home and told her mother. When Ye Wen heard that it was his daughter-in-law who instigated his son not to give his daughter money to spend, he took his daughter to his son's house with his bag. When he got home, he learned from the servant that his son and his family went to listen to the opera. Ye Wen became even angrier. He forgot his mother after having a wife. Ye Wen, Xin Anan and others were at home. When they saw the family of four coming in from outside with a smile, their faces became even uglier. You still remember to come back, Ye Wen said. You went out to eat, drink and have fun, and made your mother wait for so long. Li Yishan saw the posture of her mother-in-law and the sister-in-law who was gloating on the side, and her heart skipped a beat. It depends on whether her husband can hold on this time. Mom, we just went out to listen to the opera. You and Anan never liked it, so I didn't invite you. Xin Wei explained. Why did you come together? Have you had dinner? You are so angry, what else can you eat? Ye Wen said coldly. Ah Wei, Anan is your only sister. This year your sister lost face in front of her friends, why don't you give your sister money? It was indeed this matter. Anan has her own company and property, why does she keep asking me for money? Xin Wei said, if she doesn't run the company well, she can sell it to me, and I will give you a share of the money. Why are you like this? How can you occupy your sister's property? Ye Wen said dissatisfiedly, you can't do this. Yes, brother, that was left to me by my father. If I sell it to you, what should I do in the future? Xin said, I don't understand. I asked you for some money to spend, and you thought about occupying my property. Xin Wei was so angry that his heart ached. This sister was really too much and actually said that he wanted to occupy her property. It's so ridiculous. He just didn't want the Xin family's industry to decline like this. I occupied your property. Since it is yours, why don't you manage it well? Keep taking money from me? In the past few years, you have received 30 million from me, Xin Wei said angrily, this is already half of the Xin family's property in your hands, did I say anything? 30 million, Ye Wen was also stunned. It was so much. No wonder his son was angry this time. Yes, 30 million. She hasn't repaid me a penny. Because I don't have enough capital to invest, the current business has stagnated. She still comes to ask for money. If this continues, her company will not go bankrupt, and my company will. If she goes bankrupt first, I won't give her any more money. If you have the ability, make money by yourself. If you don't have the ability, don't spend money randomly, Xin Wei said angrily. Brother, you can't do this to me, Xin said, you love me the most. I know my sister-in-law and I have differences with my mother and look down on us, but we are brothers and sisters. My company has no money, if you don't give me money to spend, how can I live my life? Ye Wen originally felt a little guilty for her son. After hearing her daughter's words and seeing her daughter-in-law standing aside, looking like she was watching a good show, she said angrily, Away, Anan is your sister. You both have families. It's fine if you don't give Anan, but you can't support me as your biological mother. Give me 1 million. Kunji, returned to the 3rd grade of junior high school, is reborn as a top student, chases male idols, and becomes a winner in life. Save God's plan, if it is overturned, it will be saved. Yan Zioki feels that he is being saved all the time. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 396. 394. Regardless of whether it was right or wrong, Ye Wen made up his mind to get 1 million from his son today to suppress his daughter-in-law's arrogance. I gave Anan 1 million last month, and there's not that much money in my account. Xin Wei refused, and he wasn't going to give it this time. Seeing her husband like this, Li Yushin was slightly relieved, and went upstairs with her children without looking at her mother-in-law and sister-in-law. Stop, if you don't feel guilty, why are you leaving? Ye Wen sneered, trying to sow discord between mother and son, brother and sister, and there was no way to leave. However, Li Yushin did not stop and pretended not to hear. Every time the mother-in-law and sister-in-law failed to achieve their goals, they would find excuses on her, saying that she did not let her husband help. It was a misunderstanding before, but this time it's true. Li Yushin didn't want to refute. Since she had decided to break up, there was no need to wrong herself. Away, you see, your wife doesn't take me seriously at all. Ye Wen said, I don't live anymore, with this how can my son and daughter-in-law live? Xin Anan was watching the show, while Xin Wei had black lines on his head. Xin Wei didn't want to pay attention and went directly upstairs. Wen and Xianan saw that everyone had left. They were making trouble at home, and even with that prodigal Li Yishan, they couldn't get any money. Xianan cried so miserably, she had no money to spend in the future. Don't be afraid, Anan. Mom will take you to the company tomorrow and your eldest brother will not ignore you. You have also seen that if your sister-in-law is not happy, of course your eldest brother will not give you money to spend. Wen said comfortingly, no matter what, she all have to get money from their sons. Mom, you're the best, Xianan said, kissing Wen on the face. Although Wen was a bit nonsense, he was not completely confused. He said, Anan, since your companies are losing money, you might as well ask your elder brother to help you take care of it. In this case, won't you have money to spend? Mom, you just love my brother but not me. It's my property. If I don't take care of it, let others take care of it. It won't be mine anymore. Xianan complained that her husband is now managing the company. It was precisely because of this tacit agreement that her husband allowed her to play outside without divorce. Such days are free and happy. Okay, let's not talk anymore. Wen felt very distressed when she saw her daughter was angry. She loved this daughter who looked very similar to her. Li Yishan breathed a sigh of relief when her mother-in-law and sister-in-law left. Hey, if their life is really difficult, we won't ignore them, Li Yishan said, but they spend money like water and have no restraint. They only go out but not in. No matter how much money they have, it is not enough for them. In our family I still have 2 children, so I have to think about myself. Xian nodded and said, I know this, and I won't tolerate their problems in the future. Xian thought well, but not long after arriving at the company the next day, Wen came with Xianan. In front of the employees, he begged Xian to help his sister. In front of so many people, Xian felt that he had lost all face for the first time, and for the first time he hated himself for having such a mother and sister. Because a big customer is coming today, and if my mother makes such a fuss, the business will definitely fail, and I have to write a check for 1 million to Xianan. After getting the money, Wen left happily with his daughter Xianan. Mommy, you are so amazing. Xianan hugged her mother and kissed her several times. My brother is still very filial to my mother, but he is not as nice to my sister as he used to be. Don't be dissatisfied. Your brother gave you 30 million back and forth, but he didn't make much money in total. Wen said, but you really have to manage your own property well. You can't just do it all day long. Know how to play. I know, Mommy. Xianan nodded. Mom, we went shopping. We haven't bought the things we liked that day, and I don't know if they are still available. Wen was happy to hear that her daughter wanted to honor her, and they went shopping together. However, when they were shopping, they spent most of their money, carrying large and small bags, and saw Bai Qianjiao and an old lady choosing jewelry together in a jewelry store. Who is the old lady next to the white old lady? Wen asked. I have known her for decades, and I have never seen her so friendly with anyone, smiling like a big blooming chrysanthemum. Such a description is to squeeze out the wrinkles on Bai Qianjiao's face. But compared to Bai Qianjiao, Wen had more wrinkles on her face, but there was no mirror in front of her, so she couldn't see her face. A typical crow stands on the back of a black pig, only seeing the blackness of others but not himself. I don't know that old woman, but I know that the woman next to me is Mrs. Chi Shu's wife. Xianan said, that unknown old lady should be Chi Shu's mother, right? Otherwise Anna wouldn't know it either. So flattering. It is obvious that the daughter-in-law is flattering her mother-in-law. Sister-in-law Li Yishan used to do this often, but now that the child is older and the wings are stiffer, it is not like before. Wen smiled and said, it's rare to see Bai Qianjiao flatter someone like this. Let's go over and have a look. Xianan hesitated for a moment. She knew that 8 out of 10 times her mother would start a fight when she saw her stepmother. A few quarrels with her stepmother were nothing. Others knew about the Xin family's affairs, but in front of the Chi family, she looked very ugly. Okay, mommy. Let's not go there, Xinan said, let's go there later. No, Ye Wen shook off Xinan and walked over. Look again, there is a little girl who looks very similar to her next to Bai Qianjiao. Aren't you curious who that is? Hearing her mother's words, Xinan was startled, and this time she saw the girl next to her stepmother clearly. The stepmother is holding the latest diamond necklace for the girl to wear, which is worth $2 million. She looked at it several times but was reluctant to buy it. The stepmother actually wants to buy it for that little girl. What is their relationship? And the two look so similar, the meaning of this is intriguing. Let's go take a look, Xinan said, this time she was the one urging Ye Wen. Sister Bai, I'm so excited. It's rare to see you shopping. Ye Wen stepped forward with a smile on his face, but his eyes were contemptuous, but more of a jealous look. Bai Qianjiao was dressing up He Tian and didn't notice Ye Wen's arrival at all. Hearing Ye Wen's voice, Bai Qianjiao felt bored. Bai Qianjiao turned around, saw Ye Wen, and then glanced at Xinan. Well, you're in a good mood. Bai Qianjiao suppressed the boredom in her heart and said calmly. Bai Qianjiao turned around and continued to help He Tian choose jewelry. Won't you introduce us to who that girl is? Ye Wen became even more curious. This little girl was Bai Qianjiao in her youth. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Xing Cao. Chapter 397. 395. Bai Qianjiao glanced at He Tian and was about to speak when Grandma Chi San spoke. That's my granddaughter, Grandma Chi San said. Do you have any objections? Ye Wen was stunned, looked at Anna behind the old lady, and said with a smile, your granddaughter looks very much like my sister Bai, especially when she was young, she looked so delicate and charming. Otherwise, Lao Xin wouldn't be able to take a liking to him at a glance and pursue him relentlessly. As soon as these words came out, Bai Qianjiao became furious. If you don't explain, I'm afraid He Tian will misunderstand. If you explain it, it will lower your level of understanding to this woman. But Bai Qianjiao didn't want to talk about those things about sesame seeds and rotten millet. They were all in the past anyway. Now Grandma Chi San can confidently say that He Tian is her granddaughter. Why can't she say it? What is she still worried about? She, Bai Qianjiao, has never seen any big storms. Who has she ever been afraid of? This is He Tian, my granddaughter, Bai Qianjiao said. Sister Chi, this is my ex-wife Ye Wen, whose deceased husband can only share wealth, but not adversity. Next to her is my stepdaughter, Xinan. As soon as these words came out, it was Ye Wen and Xinan was dumbfounded. It's just that the mother and daughter were dumbfounded for different reasons. Ye Wen was angry that Bai Qianjiao had exposed her scars, and they could only share wealth and honor, but not adversity. She also regrets it. If she had known it was a false alarm, she wouldn't have done that. On the other hand, Xinan was angry and anxious. If she wanted to be her granddaughter, she would definitely have to be her son. If the stepmother has a biological son, what benefits will they, the stepsons and stepdaughters, get in the future? Mother, you can't treat someone as your granddaughter just because she looks like you, Xinan said, it's better to be cautious. Bai Qianjiao glanced at Xinan, smiled and said, it's not wrong, my own child, I know. Ye Wen sneered, pulled her daughter back, and said coldly, Sister Bai, you are too unruly. You gave birth to the baby outside behind Lao Xin's back. I'm not like some people. I got divorced and remarried a few years later. I don't want some people to cheat on me during marriage, Bai Qianjiao said. Since this person didn't save face for her, she wouldn't give it to Ye Wen either. Good look. Bai Qianjiao, Don't talk nonsense, Ye Wen said angrily, pointing at Bai Qianjiao. Bai Qianjiao sneered, if I were talking nonsense, would you still be so angry and frustrated? You, don't be proud. Ye Wen said angrily, waiting for Bai Qianjiao and then looking at He Tian. Bai Qianjiao squinted her eyes, looked at Ye Wen and Xianan, and said, if someone does evil to my child, I will pay back double the amount. Xianan was frightened by Bai Qianjiao's eyes and took 2 steps back. She had always been afraid of the stepmother and did not dare to speak under her stepmother's pressure. Don't bully others too much. I'm afraid that you, a shameless person, will take advantage of the property left by Lao Xian to people with foreign surnames, Ye Wen said. Her main purpose was this, and she was unwilling to accept that what originally belonged to her son would immediately become someone else. Haha, that was given to me by Lao Xian. I can give it to whoever I want, Bai Qianjiao said. If you have the ability, you can ask Lao Xian to change his will. Ye Wen was furious. She didn't get a cent of so much property, and her sons and daughters combined didn't have as many as this woman. Thinking of this, Ye Wen was so angry that his heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys ached. You, don't bully others too much, Ye Wen scolded. We'll see. Xianan felt sad and anxious, and said, Mom, stop talking, let's leave quickly. She was at a loss. She went back and asked her brother, what should she do? My mother has always been like this. She immediately broke up with her stepmother and could not reconcile in the future. When Ye Wen saw Anna, Grandma Chi-san looked at her with a playful look and a look of embarrassment on her face. Under the pull of her daughter, she left them all. Seeing that the person left, Bai Qianjiao looked a little embarrassed and said, let Sister Chi make Anna laugh. Haha, it's nothing, Grandma Chi-san said with a smile, I've seen a lot of dramas like this. In fact, it's just one sentence, and a white-eyed wolf has been raised with all the painstaking efforts. Bai Qianjiao dared to admit that He Tian was her granddaughter in front of her stepdaughter, proving that she truly loved He Tian. In the scene just now, He Tian didn't speak and kept observing others. Especially when her grandmother admitted their relationship, He Tian felt very happy. Yes, Sister Chi is absolutely right, Bai Qianjiao said, but Tian, don't worry, I will protect you and your father and won't let you get hurt. He Tian nodded and said, Grandma is here, so I'm not worried. But He Tian thinks more. She still doesn't know about the death of her parents in her previous life, and it has become an unsolvable mystery. However, with a grandmother like Bai Qianjiao here, and stepsons like the Xianan brothers and sisters, will the stepdaughters have something to do with them? There was no way to trace what happened in the past life, but He Tian could tell from Xianan's eyes that this matter was not over yet. Xianan and Xianwei were bound to do something. During the last period of time, He Tian decided to stay at home. In this case, Xianan can't find a chance to speak. Hearing her granddaughter's words, Bai Qianjiao smiled, nodded, and said, thank you for trusting me. Let's not talk about these things anymore. Do you like this necklace? It's too expensive, I don't want it anymore. He Tian clicked her tongue, $2 million, she would never make so much money in her life. How much braised pork does this cost? You can't blame He Tian, because her previous business was limited to braised pork. Grandma gave this to you. A girl must dress up well to look good. Don't live up to her good looks. With chicken skin and black hair like us, we can't be pretty even if we want to, Grandma Chi-san said, helping He Tian pick. He Tian also knew that she couldn't keep saying no if she didn't want to, her grandmother would think she was alienated. Okay, then I want it. But just this one, don't buy anything else, He Tian said. She was embarrassed to ask for such an expensive thing. Bai Qianjiao nodded and said, okay, wrap up this set. This one is made of pink diamonds, and the set includes a necklace, earrings, rings, bracelets, and a hairpin. This set costs a total of $5 million. He Tian was stunned and stammered, "Grandma, Grandma, this is too precious. My things will belong to you and your father from now on." "This little thing is nothing," Bai Qianjiao said, "I still have a lot of jewelry at home, and I will leave it to you in the future. Take it, this is your grandmother's wish." Grandma Chi San smiled, feeling that Bai Qianjiao was more pleasing to the eye. He Tian had no choice but to take it, nodded and said, "Thank you, Grandma." Converted into RMB, it should be tens of millions. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 398. 396. Speaking of Ye Wen, Xin Anan did not go home, but went directly to Xin Wei's company. Just after sending the customer away, Xin Wei saw his mother and sister coming again, and felt a headache. This time, his company's account really had no money. "Why are you back again?" Xin Wei said coldly, especially when he saw the large and small bags of luxury goods in the hands of his mother and sister. "Brother, I just saw a little girl next to my stepmother." The stepmother admitted it and said it was her granddaughter. Xin said, "The stepmother has a biological granddaughter. From now on, the stepmother's things have nothing to do with us." Xin has been looking forward to that inheritance for a long time, which will be enough for her to eat and drink for a lifetime. "How great were my expectations before, but now I am even more disappointed." Xin Wei was stunned for a moment, then nodded and said, "Well, that's my stepmother's granddaughter." "Brother, do you know?" Xin asked. "How do you know?" "I went to investigate before, but I haven't had time to tell you yet," Xin Wei said with a wry smile. "If he can't hide it anymore, then there is no need to hide it." "Brother, what should we do?" Xin was anxious. "I don't want to lose so much property." Xin Wei smiled bitterly and said, "Those are all stepmothers. She has absolute control. If she doesn't give them to us, she can't say anything." "No," Ye Wen said, "your father still has more than half of his property in the hands of that Bai Qianjiao, so we can't take advantage of outsiders." "Hey, the Bai family has more property," Xin said with emotion. After losing such a large amount of property, her life suddenly became unhappy. "Mom, Anan, don't mess around," Xin Wei said, "our property is enough to spend now, so don't think about things that don't belong to us. You may not know that the Bai family is more powerful than we imagined." "Humph," Ye Wen said, "it's useless and has no future. If you don't go and ask for it, I'll go and ask for it. I'll go to the Bai family's company all day long, and I'll give up whenever I want to spit out the Xin family's property." The Xin family's property in the stepmother's hands is also very large. If she can get it back, she can get tens of millions. Xin had a little thought. The Bai family's property was probably no longer a matter for their siblings, but the Xin families might be able to get it back. After all, the stepmother is a face-saving person and cannot remain in a stalemate. "Mom, you can't do this. Although our Xin family is not as good as before, you can't ruin the Xin family's face like this," Xin Wei said. "No one who knows the family knows anything about it. His biological mother did this just to add to the joke." "Face? Can that thing be used as food, or can it be used as money?" Ye Wen said. "You object now, right? When I come to the Xin family's property, don't come over to share it." Xin rolled her eyes. If it was true as her mother said, and she didn't give it to her brother, wouldn't she be able to get more? "Mom, now my brother and sister-in-law are of the same mind and don't want to see us," Xin said. "Since my brother doesn't understand your wry smile, let's go back, lest he think we are here to cause trouble for him. That's right, Ye Wen glared at his son and left with his daughter. Xin Wei sat in his seat dejectedly, exhausted and extremely disappointed. Hey, I knew it would be like this. The matter between his mother and sister was enough to make Xin Wei angry. When he returned home, the building was empty and there was only a divorce agreement. Divorce agreement? Xin Wei couldn't believe that after seeing this agreement in front of him, his wife wanted to divorce him. Xin Wei was anxious. After regaining his composure, he quickly called his wife Li Yushin. He called his father-in-law's house, and his mother-in-law transferred the call to his wife. Yushin, our relationship is so good, why do you want to divorce me? Xin Wei asked hurriedly. He really couldn't understand. When he sent him out in the morning, his wife was still smiling and full of affection. Li Yushin sighed on the phone and said, "It's too tiring to live with you. Whenever your mother and sister make trouble, you give them money. Over the years, you have given out 30 million. I told you before, you also promised us that it would not be like before, but you broke your promise again today." It turned out that this was the case. Xin Wei calmed down a little and said, "Yushin, as you know, they are making a big fuss in the company. The customers are coming soon. If I don't send them away, today's business will be ruined. It's like this every time." "You haven't seen the division of property later, right?" Li Yushin said. "The money you transferred is in your share of property. If you don't agree, then I can only sue you." Transfer of legal property between husband and wife. Transfer the legal property of the couple. Xin Wei was anxious again. "Yushin, do you really want to divorce me? What will happen to our children?" Li Yushin might not be angry if she didn't mention children, but she became even more angry when she heard about it. She said angrily, "You still have 2 children in your heart? What do our sons and daughters use? What do your sister and your sister's children use? That was originally my family's money, and it should be my son and daughter enjoying the money earned by their father. But as for you, the money you earned was given to Xinn's family. Why do you still need a wife, son, and daughter? Spend it with your mother and sister." After saying that, he hung up the phone with a bang. Seeing this, Mother Li asked cautiously, "Yushin, are you really going to divorce Wei? In fact, except for Wei's soft airs, everything else is fine. He has not messed around outside for so many years, and he is also very good to you." "Good." Li Yushin smiled bitterly and said, "Mom, if I don't do this, we really won't be able to survive." "Why?" Mother Li asked. Her daughter had always been very strong and seldom talked about their husband and wife's affairs, so she didn't know the details. Li Yushin explained the reason again. After hearing this, Mother Li said angrily, "This time, you did the right thing. If you don't treat Xin's weak disease, you might as well get divorced. For so many years, you have been busy with people. Now, if you divorce, you can get more points. If you divorce too late, it will become someone else's." "Yeah, so I don't want to bear it anymore," Li Yushin said. "Xin is very selfish and can't manage the company well. We want to buy it and give her dividends every year. She is not happy. She also says that we want to take advantage of her. She wants to seize her property. Eating from the bowl and looking at the pot, I'm not afraid of overpowering her to death," Mother Li said. "There is another important reason why I did this, which is to save Wei," Li Yushin said with a bitter smile. She could not just watch her husband become a victim. "How do you say this?" Mother Li asked. "Could it be that if Wei doesn't give Xin money, she can still kill Wei?" Li Yushin shook her head and said, "That's not the case. It was the stepmother who found her biological son and granddaughter. Xin has always regarded her stepmother's property as her own. Now that she has found her biological son, why should she give it to her unfilial stepdaughter and stepson? Recommended Twanza 123 new article, Ancient Counterattack Strategy, 3-star God of War travels through ancient times, just go ahead and do it without saying a word. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 399. 397. Mother Li was stunned again after hearing this. Yes, if you have a biological son, of course you won't give it to your stepdaughter. That's a lot of property, Mother Li said. It's rare that you haven't been blinded by money and can still distinguish it clearly. Your stepmother-in-law is not easy to mess with. If you don't want it, she might give you some. But if you insist on grabbing it, you won't get a penny. Yes, it's because I know how powerful my stepmother is that I gave Awei strong medicine, Li Yushin said. If we don't make a big fuss, Awei will definitely be involved. In that case, the family's business will definitely be affected. Instead of doing that, I might as well divide some of it first and leave Awei out, so that Awei can wake up a little bit. You did the right thing, Mother Li said, agreeing with her daughter's words. You live here with your 2 children. Don't go back. When Awei comes, I will ask your father to talk to Awei. Then it's troublesome for Mom and Dad, Li Yushin said. She wanted this to be the case when she took her child back to her parents' home. Li Yushin doesn't want her husband to be greedy and swallow the elephant, which will lead to the destruction of the family. As for her sister-in-law's family and her mother-in-law, Li Yushin was extremely bored and didn't want to care about them. Xin Wei came to his father-in-law's and mother-in-law's homes, but Li Yushin didn't come out, nor did he let the children come out. After Xin Wei was fed tea by his mother-in-law, he was too embarrassed to eat dinner and walked away in despair. Xin Wei was very disappointed when he didn't see his wife. When he thought about his biological mother and younger sister going to find trouble with his stepmother, Xin Wei became even more worried and worried. Xin Wei did not go home, but went directly to the villa where his mother lived. It just so happened that my sister Xianan was also there, so Xin Wei didn't have to go to her sister's house anymore. Oh, what a rare guest, Ye Wen said with a sharp tone. Xin Wei looked embarrassed and said, Mom, I came here this time to advise you not to cause trouble for your stepmother. We can't get any benefits. Anan, how about your stepmother treating us? You can't do anything ungrateful. At that time, my father was busy with business, so my stepmother was involved in their lives and accompanied them. Brother, it's also because of my father, Xianan said. My stepmother took so much of my father's money, so we only got how much. Are you willing? What if you are willing to do so, or not? Xin Wei said. The Xian family's business developed rapidly with the help of the Bai family. The stepmother has also made a lot of efforts and contributions for the Xian family. Although she received half of the Xian family's property, it was much, but it's not as good as the help she brought to the Xian family. You know, the Xian family's business would have been gone if it weren't for the Bai family's help. Although Xian Wei loves money, he has a bottom line in doing things. When he grew up, he studied business with his father. He often heard his father talk about the past, so Xin Wei was very grateful to his stepmother. You rebellious son, are you resenting me? Ye Wen said. If I hadn't left at the beginning, how could the Xian family survive the difficulties? I was making way for your father and that Bai Qianjiao. Haha, Xin Wei sneered. Mother, don't say this, lest your lover hears it and make people laugh. I came here today just to tell you. The money I gave you that day was the last time, and I also warned you not to go find your stepmother. If you don't listen to me, I won't give you a penny in the future, let alone get involved. After Xin Wei finished speaking, he turned around and left. Xin Wei was disgusted by the behavior of his biological mother and sister. His wife is right, he cannot help others do evil. Xin Wei's words made Ye Wen tremble with anger and said angrily, Xin Wei, you bastard, don't call me mother in the future. Xin, who was standing next to her, pretended to be sad and said, "Mom, don't be angry. My brother is now focused on his little family. He has long forgotten his mother and sister." "Who says it's not the case?" Ye Wen said angrily. "Luckily, Enan, you are sensible, but you can't be like your brother. Your brother doesn't like the money. When I come back, we will split it up. Give it all to Mom, just like Mom buys me things." Xin was very happy and elated. "Good daughter," Ye Wen said happily, as if mother and daughter were in love with each other. Xin returned from his mother's place. When he got home, he felt sad when he saw the empty room. "Hey, when I got to the room, I picked up the phone and called my wife. Li Yushin answered the phone over there. Yushin, I know you are doing this for my own good." Xin Wei and Li Yushin have been in a relationship for more than 20 years, and they don't understand their wife's character. At first, he thought Li Yushin had someone, but after thinking about it carefully, he finally figured it out. On the one hand, Li Yushin did it because of her mother and sister, and on the other hand, she hoped that he would not get involved in these things. Li Yushin heard her husband's voice and said sadly, "Away, I told my father about my stepmother, and he said that if you get involved, he will never help you because he doesn't want to involve the Li family. I've already told them." Xin Wei's mouth went dry. "But will they listen?" Li Yushin asked. "You also know that they won't listen and will not give up until they hit the wall." Then, Xin Wei didn't know what to do. "Since they won't listen, it's useless for you to waste your time," Li Yushin said. "Since you can't let them go and can't control them, then we have to get divorced and give what belongs to me and my children. What else can we do? Leave a prosperous life to your children." Li Yushin gave strong medicine. "The worst result is this." "Yushin, Xin Wei was embarrassed. "Hey, let me think about it. I hope you can figure it out. If you can't give me an answer tomorrow afternoon, then just sign the divorce agreement," Li Yushin said, and hung up the phone. Mother Li over there also sighed when she heard her daughter's words. "Hey, Wei is still so indecisive," Mother Li said. "Yushin, you have to hold on. Bai Qianjiao is not a bad person, but definitely not a good person, and he is very principled. How many shrewd people are in her hands, you can't get any benefits, let alone your stupid mother-in-law and sister-in-law." "Yes," Li Yushin smiled bitterly, "I have to do this." Ye Wen asked someone to inquire about Bai Qianjiao's itinerary. When he found out that Bai Qianjiao had gone to the company, he went to make a fuss. Because Ye Wen was dressed like a lady and said she was Mr. Bai's friend, she got in smoothly. Bai Qianjiao came out of the office and prepared to go to the conference room for a meeting. Ye Wen walked forward quickly, trying to block Bai Qianjiao with his body. The secretary next to Bai Qianjiao stood in front of Bai Qianjiao, so Ye Wen didn't bump into Bai Qianjiao. "Come back, the Empress doesn't want to live" is a story that has to be pampered. The veteran driver Empress wears sleeping clothes and the little fresh meat Emperor. The sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 400. 398. Bai Qianjiao, who was talking to his subordinates, discovered Ye Wen's arrival. "Kick him out, let him out without an appointment, all relevant people will be fired for dereliction of duty," Bai Qianjiao said unhurriedly, not even bothering to look at Ye Wen, and turned around and walked towards the office. Ye Wen was stunned and cursed, "Bai Qianjiao, you shameless person. You can't give the Xin family's property to that bastard." Bastard? It was a treasure she had lost and found with great difficulty. No one can say anything about them. "Are you all dead? Throw them out," Bai Qianjiao said, looking at Ye Wen. "From now on, you, mother and son, no one can get a penny from me." Ye Wen yelled, "That's the Xin family's money, not yours. You have to pay it back." Bai Qianjiao had already entered the conference room and ignored Ye Wen. Ye Wen still wanted to say something, but the bodyguard covered his mouth and threw him out. Ye Wen was at the door of the Bai family's company, with disheveled hair and cursing. Someone called the police, and after a while, the police came over. Xianan quickly stepped forward and pulled away her mother, who was still cursing. Seeing this, Xianan knew that her mother had failed. "Mom, what should we do next?" Xianan said. "Doesn't stepmother agree? It's so much money that Bai Qianjia wouldn't want to part with." Ye Wen said, "Let's go back and find a way." Xianan was disappointed, it was so much money. Bai Qianjia continued the meeting as if nothing had happened, and today's work was quickly completed. Bai Qianjia got into the car going home and closed her eyes to rest. When she got home, Pandan gave her a cup of tea. "Miss, what's wrong?" Xianglan asked. From the lady's expression, she saw something strange. Bai Qianjia drank tea, raised the corners of her mouth, and sneered, "Ye Wen actually went to the company to insult me and wanted to take back the property that Lao Xian left me." "Joke," Xianglan scolded, "you are so shameless, you can say this." "Yes," Bai Qianjia said, "I originally wanted to give them some, but if they want to go back like this, I won't give them a cent. "Of course you can't give it to them. Even if you donate it, you won't give it to them either," Xianglan said. "Miss, don't be angry. I'll send someone to check." "Well, I've been sending people to keep an eye on them," Bai Qianjia said. "We can't take it easy on them anymore. All this time, for Lao Xian's sake, I haven't made it difficult for them. Since some people are ignorant, don't blame me for being rude." At this moment, a servant announced that the eldest young master was here. "Why is he here?" Xianglan asked, looking at the young lady. Bai Qianjia sneered and said, "What else could it be for?" After a while, Xian came in. Xian was informed by his subordinate that he knew what his mother had done and was angry. However, the man did not hold his mother back at that time and caused such trouble. "Mother, I'm sorry. I have warned my mother before, but..." Xian said in embarrassment, "It's all my fault that I was useless and failed to persuade them." Bai Qianjia raised her eyebrows and asked, "Are you here to plead for her?" Xian looked embarrassed and nodded. "Then should I forgive her?" Bai Qianjia said softly, but everyone could hear the coercion in his tone. Xian knew that this would chill his stepmother, but he couldn't just watch his mother being suppressed by her stepmother. "Mom, please," Xian begged, "I will definitely tell my mother today and ask her not to do that." "Away, this is the last time I call your name. This is our last friendship," Bai Qianjia said. "When we meet again, don't talk to me anymore. I don't expect my stepson to be filial to me, but I don't either. I hope my stepson will tear out my heart again and again." "Mother," Xian said anxiously, "I still respect you very much. Ever since you wronged me, an unrelated stepmother, for your unreasonable biological mother time and time again, our friendship has become weaker and weaker." Bai Qianjia said, "I promise you, I will not deal with Bai Qianjia this time." Xianan. "Mother," Xian knelt down and asked his stepmother for forgiveness. Bai Qianjia sneered, turned and left without saying anything. Seeing Xian still kneeling there, Xianglan sighed and said, "Away, you can take care of yourself in the future. Mrs. Heart has been broken by you. She had nothing to do before. I didn't say anything, thinking that you would be able to recover from your mistakes, but you will only worsen the situation and make the lady suffer. Aunt Lan, I will really persuade my mother this time," Xian defended. "I will never do it again in the future." Xianglan also found these words irritating and said, "Away, how many times have you said this, can you count clearly?" Xianglan's words made Xian's breathing stop for a moment. Yes, every time something happened, he would come over and beg his stepmother, hoping that he would forgive his mother and sister. "Go back," Xianglan said, Take care of yourself. Xin Wei didn't know how he left here. He stood at the door and looked at the tall door, feeling sad in his heart. However, the next morning, before Xin Wei got up, he received a call from Li Yishan. Xin Wei, divorce immediately. If you don't sign, I will file for divorce immediately and wait for my lawyer's letter, Li Yishan said quickly and hung up the phone without waiting for Xin Wei to speak. Xin Wei was confused. It was so early in the morning. What happened to Yishan? Xin Wei thought his wife was having trouble, so he didn't take it to heart. From now on, he would listen to his wife in everything, and there was no need for a divorce. Xin Wei took a shower, changed clothes, and went downstairs to have breakfast. There were several newspapers on the table. Xin Wei was eating and reading the newspaper as usual. But today's news made Xin Wei's mind go blank. At this time, none of the servants were in the house, they all hid out. It took a while for Xin Wei to realize why his wife divorced him so early in the morning. The newspaper clearly stated that Bai Qianjiao, Xin Wei, and Xin Anan were no longer related to each other. His father passed away, and although they still had a legal relationship of stepson and stepdaughter, when he begged his stepmother again and again, he knew that there was no more friendship left in this relationship. Yesterday, his stepmother and Aunt Lan asked him to take care of himself. He took it for granted that it would be the same as before, but he was wrong. Human feelings are like time, squandered, even money cannot buy it. What the stepmother did may not change anything legally, but it sent a message to the outside world. The Xin brothers and sisters were no longer under her protection, Bai Qianjiao. Whatever happens to the Xin family in the future has nothing to do with her. Xin Anan is not good at business, and may not know that if it weren't for her stepmother, her company would have gone bankrupt in the fierce competition. Xin Wei also understands that his company has developed steadily over the years and is still running well even after spending so much money. This has something to do with his stepmother. There are some business partners who, for the sake of their stepmother, will not make things difficult for them. But after this statement, those people will have no scruples. Willow leaves in winter, time is slow. Miss Jiao thought it didn't matter if she couldn't get married, but accidentally discovered that there were too many men who were willing to pamper her. A certain man, those spare tires don't count. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 401. 399. Xin Wei hugged his head and cried, feeling extremely regretful. When they arrived at the company, those who knew about the Xin family were panicked. Xin Wei's business is relatively stable. Even if there is a shock, it will not explode all at once. But Xin Anan's company is different. I usually don't manage well and can barely maintain it. As soon as the statement came out, something went wrong that day. Xin Anan, who never reads newspapers, and Wen are still out shopping. After receiving the news from the company, Xin Anan returned to the company and found that the company's daily operations had been paralyzed. Brother, please help me, give me 5 million. Otherwise it will be really difficult this time. Xin Anan was so anxious that she called Xin Wei directly. At this time, only her brother can help her. Xin Wei was extremely calm on the phone because he had completely understood it before. He could never tolerate his sister and mother. Since you dared to do something like that before, you must be prepared to pay the price. Xin Wei said, my company is already overwhelmed, and I can't help you anymore. After saying that, Xin Wei hung up the phone. It's time for mom and sister to learn a lesson. Xin Wei did not go to his father-in-law and mother-in-law, but was dealing with the company's affairs. The job that was once easy has now become difficult. After a whole day, Xin Wei becomes physically and mentally exhausted and restless. When we arrived at home, although there were servants, it still felt deserted. The exquisite and delicious food in the past was tasteless when eaten alone. While Xin Wei was busy at work, Xin Wei received a letter from Li Yishan's lawyer. Only then did Xin Wei remember to go to his father-in-law's home and quickly put down his work. If his wife divorces him, he really won't be able to survive. When he arrived at Li's house, Xin Wei was not treated as well as before. In order to save his family, Xin Wei kept himself humble. Li Yishan felt uncomfortable when she saw that her husband was much thinner than before, but when she thought of Xin Wei's stupidity, she turned and looked away. Xin Wei, you go to the study like me, my father-in-law said coldly, walking in front. Yes, Dad. Xin Wei followed his father-in-law to the study. Mother Li then smiled and said, Yishan, I asked someone to ask. This time Xin Wei didn't care about his sister. Huh, they have no money anymore. They will still ask Xin Wei for it in the future. Li Yishan was angry. I feel annoyed just thinking about it. Mom, I really want to leave, so as not to have to deal with them in the future. That's enough. Mother Li smiled and said, Daughter, don't worry. This time, your father will fight for your best interests. Mom, what do you mean? Li Yishan asked. If there was a better way, she wouldn't want a divorce. At her age, no matter how hard she looked, she couldn't find anything better. With 2 children and a father, I was in a dilemma. You control all the money. From now on, if your mother-in-law or sister-in-law doesn't have any money at home, just give them some living expenses every month. Mother Li said, the money is in your hands, so what are you afraid of? If Xin Wei doesn't agree, we'll get divorced now. Li's mother said. She didn't want her daughter to continue to suffer. Li Yishan thought for a while and realized that this method was feasible. Then please leave it to Mom and Dad, Li Yishan said, hoping to get more benefits this time. It was very late and Bai Qianjiao didn't sleep. Pandan brought the milk and said, Miss, drink some milk. When Bai Qianjiao came into contact with Xianglan's concerned eyes, she had to take a few sips of milk and said, why aren't you asleep yet? Now that we have done it, don't feel bad. Xianglan said, we have done our best to the Xin family brothers and sisters. Bai Qianjiao said softly, am I right or wrong to do this? Miss, you were tolerant enough before, but they didn't know how to cherish it. Since they don't cherish it and have wronged you again and again, my uncle Xin's family could comfort you before. But now, why should we? Do you want to suffer such injustice? Xianglan said. She supported the young lady in doing this. Rather than being so aggrieved and patient all the time, it is better to be happy with your grudges. Bai Qianjiao nodded and said, I don't owe them anything. Yes, they take your efforts for granted, and they even allow that woman Ye Wen to come and insult you. Xianglan said angrily, why? Even if my uncle is alive, he will not allow them to do this. Xianglan was also very angry. Those people wanted to get benefits, but they also abused others. How can there be such a good thing in the world? Yes, if Lao Xian is here, maybe he can suppress it. Bai Qianjiao said, hey, it doesn't matter if he is gone, I don't have any scruples in doing things. Xin Wei, although he is a little better than his mother and sister, but he begged me. It has become a habit, I didn't agree to it this time, I hope he will take care of himself. Actually, with the Li family here, Xin Wei should be able to survive this difficulty, but Xianan will be in trouble. Xianglan has been paying attention to them and knows better. Xianan, like her mother, is the kind of person who enjoys life in time. Send more manpower to prevent Xianan and Ye Wen from jumping over the wall and hurting Tian Tian. Bai Qianjiao said, it's time to put the old team members of the Bai family to use. Miss, don't worry, I've made all the arrangements. Xianglan said, it doesn't matter if you jump over the wall in a hurry, but you must not hurt the lady and the little lady. Bai Qianjiao nodded. Qi Shuliang has been paying attention to Bai Qianjiao's movements during this period because of the relationship between He Tiantian and Bai Qianjiao. When he saw the newspaper, Qi Shuliang was also stunned. He called He Tiantian and said, "Tiantian, look at today's newspaper." He Tiantian usually reads the newspaper during afternoon tea. She has a lot of things to do in the morning and doesn't like to read the newspaper. Since Uncle Qi asked her to read it, it must be related to her or useful information for her. He Tiantian was stunned when she opened it. Her grandmother broke off the relationship with her stepchildren. "Uncle Qi, why did grandma do this?" "Is it for me?" He Tiantian murmured. She finally discovered that she seemed to have a bad physique and would cause trouble wherever she went. He Tiantian didn't know that this was actually the halo of the heroine. Qi Shuliang smiled and said, "Your grandmother finally stopped being patient. It was because of you and your father, but more because Xin Wei and Xin Anan went too far. Our circle is not big or small, and everyone knows about MS Bai's family affairs. You also know that although we sympathize with MS Bai, she is a strong woman, and we can't express too much, so we didn't embarrass Xin Wei and Xin Anan's company." "Uncle Qi, do you mean that your grandmother has made this statement, so you can embarrass the brother and sister unscrupulously?" He Tiantian asked back. "The matter here is a bit complicated and she doesn't understand. In fact, it can't be said to be difficult. It's all business competition. In the past, with MS Bai's care, everyone more or less gave the brother and sister some face, but now MS Bai doesn't protect them. Even if it's not based on personal grudges, but purely business competition, everyone will take action. After all, there are not many profitable businesses, so you know." Qi Shuliang said that the brother and sister were too stupid, so don't blame others for going too far. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Qi Xing Cao. Chapter 402. 400. Such a good stepmother, but she doesn't know how to respect and flatter, and she also finds ways to wrong people. How can this be tolerated? It's just that He Tiantian's appearance brought this matter forward a little. "I see." He Tiantian nodded, and finally understood. "Will grandma be in danger?" Qi Shuliang nodded. This He Tiantian is not bad. The first thing she thought of was not grandma's company and property, but grandma's safety. After all, they are relatives, which is different. Don't underestimate your grandmother. She is the heir of the Bai family. She is very powerful. Those people can't hurt her." Qi Shuliang said. "These days, some people may appear around you to protect you. Don't panic. They are sent by your grandmother. She is probably worried that those people can't deal with her and will come to deal with you." He Tiantian smiled bitterly and said, "Hey, what is coming will eventually come." "Yes," Qi Shuliang said, "no matter what happens, face the difficulties and go through the wind and rain to see the rainbow. If you have time, you can go to visit your grandmother." He Tiantian nodded and said, "I know, Uncle Qi, thank you for clearing my doubts." Qi Shuliang smiled and didn't care. Suddenly he thought of the things that troubled him these days. He Tiantian sat down just as she was about to say goodbye and asked, "Uncle Qi, tell me if you have anything to ask. I will never refuse to help you." "Thank you first," Qi Shuliang said with a smile. "You know, we will leave for China next month, and my mother will not follow me to country M, but you also know that we have just reunited, and my mother is old, and I can't let go of my business for a while. Besides, the domestic environment is not suitable for my career, so I want to ask you to persuade my mother to follow me back to country M, so that I can do more filial piety." Qi Shuliang discussed this matter with his mother several times before, but his mother did not give in and was unwilling to stay in country M. Grandma Qi San always said that she wanted to return to her roots. If her son is willing, or if the domestic political environment allows, he can go to see her. Hearing that Qi Shuliang was talking about this, He Tiantian couldn't refuse directly, so she nodded and said, "I'll try my best." However, He Tian also knew that the reason why Grandma Chi-san didn't want to follow her son to the United States was, on the one hand, because of the old idea of returning to one's roots, and on the other hand, her son was now living well and had his own family, so the one she owed the most was Old Man Chi. She wanted to spend more time with Old Man Chi in the last few years of her life. However, this topic seemed a bit sensitive. He Tian couldn't tell Chi Shuliang that your mother and your second uncle had feelings for each other. No matter whether it succeeds or not, I have to thank you, Chi Shuliang said. Thank you very much. You're welcome, Uncle Chi, but I know that once Grandma makes up her mind, she won't change it, He Tian said. She was a smart, kind, and stubborn old lady. Grandma Chi-san's idea now is to leave the world without regrets and not owe anyone. Ah, Chi Shuliang sighed, I know my mother better than anyone else. The reason I asked you to persuade me again is to comfort myself. Ha ha, He Tian smiled. Chi Shuliang knew what was going on. On the weekend, Bai Qianjiao brought Xianglan to the Chi family as a guest. He Tian did not ask about the statement, and Bai Qianjiao did not say much. As before, they talked about some interesting topics at home and abroad. Bai Qianjiao was also preparing for her return trip and said, Sister Chi, what do we need to prepare for our return? Grandma Chi smiled and explained, just bring some clothes and things you are used to. As for what you need to pay attention to, you'd better consult Huo Yingjun. He is an official and is more cautious. Bai Qianjiao nodded and said, okay, thank you. I will make an appointment with Mr. Huo and talk about it later. Just tell him directly if you have anything to say. Don't be polite, Grandma Chi-san smiled and said confidently. Bai Qianjiao didn't dare to be careless about the official people, but she was a little curious about the attitude of Grandma Chi-san, and asked, do the Chi family and the Huo family have a good relationship? Are they very reliable? Grandma Chi-san smiled and said, it's not that the Chi family and the Huo family have a good relationship, but that the He family has a good relationship with the Huo family. Your little granddaughter and the second young master of the Huo family, Huo Yingjia, are childhood sweethearts, and they will be engaged at the end of this year. Ah, Bai Qianjiao was stunned. Tian is so young, and she is engaged. I heard that things have changed in China, and some old customs have changed. Why is Tian engaged at such a young age? In order to understand her son and granddaughter, Bai Qianjiao did a lot of research and read some information. Grandma Chi-san smiled and said, the country opposes arranged marriages and advocates free love. Tian and Huo Yingjia grew up together and love each other. The adults of the two families are happy to see this happen. When she went to the countryside to support rural construction, Tian lived in my house, and Huo Yingjia came to visit Tian. He is a good young man and he is thoughtful. As it concerns her only granddaughter, Bai Qianjiao has to be cautious. Whether Huo Yingjia can become her grandson-in-law remains to be verified. However, Bai Qianjiao believes in Grandma Chi-san's vision. Huo Yingjia should be a good young man. Seeing that Bai Qianjiao was worried, Grandma Chi-san smiled and said, haha, he is a good young man. I am happy to see him. You will be happy to see him too. It's just that the nature of his work is very special, and we can't see him easily. Why? Bai Qianjiao asked back, is Huo Yingjia busy? Not only is he busy, but he is also very confidential, Grandma Chi-san said, so even if you can't see me, don't be disappointed or angry. Bai Qianjiao was startled, and then asked, what kind of job? Agent? No, he is a weapons researcher and cannot come out at will, Grandma Chi-san said, please forgive me. Oh, Bai Qianjiao nodded. At least he is a person with high IQ. As for emotional intelligence, to be verified. He Tian came in with snacks and scented tea, and felt a little shy when she heard Grandma Chi-san and her grandmother talking about Huo Yingjia. Sorry to stay too long, I put down my things and ran out. Ha ha ha, Grandma Chi-san said, I'm so embarrassed. This kind of He-Tien-Tien reminded Bai Qianjiao of the time when she was young, when she first fell in love and was full of affection. She smiled slightly and said, yes, it's good to be young. Yes, young people are in vain if they are not romantic, Grandma Chi-san said, I know you are a little unsure about Huo Yingja, but you will eventually have a chance in the future. Don't worry about this matter. Sister Seven is right, Bai Qianjiao laughed. Is this concern? That heart could not help but hang on her granddaughter He-Tien-Tien. The final article of Cat Love Sweets is The Happy Life of a Concubine, From Concubine to Princess, the counter-attack path of a different cannon fodder female supporting character.